From a player waiting months just to get his revenge to ending another player's career on live TV, the game has seen some of the craziest revenge missions ever. And I decided to make a list of the 20 biggest revenge moments in football. And first up, Casemiro showed the world he'd do anything for a teammate. Real Madrid and Liverpool clashed in the quarter-finals of the UEFA Champions League, and you know how it is anytime these two clash. Something odd always happens. Real Madrid was in the middle of a counter-attack. Benzema received the ball and was ready to push, but Milner would do anything to stop him, even if that meant causing Benzema an injury. And he did just that. He pulled one of the nastiest tackles on the Real Madrid striker. He legit went after Benzema's ankle. Milner didn't get a red card for this, and Casemiro was like, "Ooh, I guess I'll have to take matters into my own hands." Casemiro started stalking Milner, waiting for his chance to strike. And when he saw Milner approach the sideline, he charged at him. Man, look at it yourself. Casemiro is the kind of friend you need in high school, unlike this guy here. Thibaut Courtois right now is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He saved his team multiple times with crazy saves. But that does not mean that everyone in his team likes him, especially Kevin De Bruyne. These have been teammates in the Belgium national team for years and over time grew to be friends, until Courtois did something that shocked everyone. He betrayed Kevin in one of the worst ways possible. He took his girl. Yeah, you heard that right, he took his girl. Just one night with Courtois and she was already saying some unimaginable stuff and talking about her ex-relationship with De Bruyne. With Thibaut, I could talk about anything and everything, and he had even prepared me a delicious meal. Kevin never did it for me. But we know Kevin, this guy doesn't talk, he lets his football do the talking for him. Real Madrid and Manchester City met in the Champions League, and of course Courtois was in goal for Real Madrid. But most likely his ex was in the stands. This was De Bruyne's chance to show her who the better man was. 80th minute and both teams were tied 1-1, and both players were doing their best to make sure they came out on top. Suddenly a foul was committed and Manchester City were awarded a penalty. Guess who stepped up to take it? Kevin De Bruyne, face to face with his former friend and his ex-fiancée in the stands watching. De Bruyne got the perfect revenge. He scored the winning goal. But this isn't the only time a player used a goal to prove a point. Ousmane Dembele also did this, but this time in a more classy way. In 2023, Dembele left Barcelona and joined French giant PSG. But things got interesting when PSG had to play Barcelona in the quarter-finals of the Champions League. The first leg was played in Barcelona Stadium and PSG won 4-1. Dembele scored the first goal of the match and celebrated it. Barca fans didn't like this. I guess they expected him not to celebrate it out of respect for the times they spent together. But Dembele was already past that. Now this is where things get interesting. Barcelona travelled to PSG for the second leg and Barca fans had plans. They waited outside the stadium chanting Dembele, calling him all sorts of things. And that's not all. They had his face printed on shirts with the nose of a pig. And into the match, they booed him every time he touched the ball. Dembele knew he had to silence them once and for all, and he did just that. He scored a goal in that match and caused a penalty. He got subbed off, and while leaving the pitch, he looked at the Barca fans and smiled, like he just conquered an enemy. But then there is another player that got revenge against a team, but this time he did more than just smile. Cristiano Ronaldo. During his first season with Juventus, he clashed with Atletico in the first knockout stage of the Champions League. It was more drama than football, especially the second leg. The first leg was played in Spain and Atletico Madrid came out on top with a 2-0 victory. Ronaldo and the rest of the team were heartbroken. And to make matters worse, Atletico fans were out for Ronaldo. They mocked him and asked him to go back to Italy. My man could not say anything. I mean, he literally just lost 2-0. Chances are Juventus are out of the tournament. But what really made headlines that night was how Atleti's coach, Diego Simeone, celebrated his team's victory. Second leg, and all CR7 could think of was making Atleti's fans and Simeone pay for what they did to him in Spain. He scored the first goal, a beautiful header, and scored another header to level things up. Now both teams were tied again and Juventus were controlling the game. Ronaldo was on fire that night, and it was only a matter of time before he added the winning goal. We just didn't know when. In the 86th minute, Bernardeschi got fouled inside the box and the ref pointed to the spot immediately. Ronaldo stepped up and scored the penalty. Atletico fans were silent. But that was not enough for Ronaldo. He gave Simeone a taste of his own medicine. But this wasn't the first time Ronaldo was making an opponent pay for what they did in a previous match. Back when this guy was still in Real Madrid, he and Messi fought for everything. In a La Liga clash in the 2016-17 season, Real Madrid and Barcelona went head-to-head. Barcelona came out on top, with Messi scoring the winning goal in the last minute. But that wasn't what got the world talking. Messi's celebration was. But after this, Ronaldo wanted revenge. And he didn't have to wait long. The Spanish Super Cup. Real Madrid travelled to the Camp Nou. Ronaldo came off the bench, and just like Messi did the last time both teams met, Ronaldo scored the goal that put his team in front. And once again, just like Messi, he celebrated with his shirt in the face of Barca fans. But I think we all know the person CR7 had in mind. It just has to be Messi. Speaking of Messi, a couple of months back, basketball star Giannis Antetokounmpo decided to do something that he knows will trigger him. He scored a penalty and did the Sue celebration. And he didn't just do this once, he did this over and over again. And we know whose celebration that is. Messi's longtime rival, CR7. As if that was not enough, Nashville fans started chanting CR7. All this to get into Messi's head. But Messi had the perfect reply. Not long after the match started, Messi took on 4 Nashville defenders and managed to still put the ball in the back of the net. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, it was the league's final. The game went into penalties and Messi scored once again to give his team the trophy. But how about when a full team decides to take revenge? I know we've been talking about players going against other players or teams, but what happens when a full team decides to revenge? Let me take you back to the 2022 World Cup. Remember how Portugal lost to Morocco and Ronaldo felt really bad and even left the pitch crying? I'm sure you remember how the Morocco supporters added salt to the injury. They teased the hell out of Ronaldo right night. Remember what this girl said?
Portugal airport is that way. And where's Ronaldo? He's crying in his car. Ronaldo.
Well, for some reason, the South African national team didn't like it. I guess they are Team CR7. They clashed with Morocco in the AFCON round of 16 stages and they won 2-0. But chasing Morocco out of the tournament was not enough for these guys. They wanted to remind them what they to CR7, and you know what they did? They ran towards the fans and celebrated like Ronaldo. That right there is what you call a cold moment. There won't be anything more colder than you hitting that subscribe button to Mr. Football right now though. That one goes hard. And so is the reply Thierry Henry gave Jose Mourinho after making his point. Let's go back to 2004 when Jose Mourinho was still the boss at Chelsea, and when Thierry Henry was still banging goals for Arsenal. Jose, in an interview, said the only reason why Thierry Henry was the league's top scorer was because he only scored against small teams. Thierry Henry heard this and was like, hold up, what do you mean I only score against small teams? But he decided to keep his cool and let his football do the talking. The next week, Arsenal and Chelsea met, and Thierry Henry knew this was his chance to make Jose eat his words. He didn't just score against Chelsea, one of the biggest teams in Europe, but he scored twice. And trust me, it gets better. In the post-match interview, he said, I only score goals against small teams and Chelsea is one of them. Crazy, right?
Well, like usual, like everyone says, I always scored in small games, so I think today must have been a small game again.
Thierry doesn't take words lightly, and neither does the next guy on the list, CR7. Maybe we've spoken too much about Ronaldo already, but it's Ronaldo. His whole career is built on proving people wrong. And this time, he went after the authority. Former FIFA president, Sepp Blatter, decided to make jokes about CR7 and Ronaldo made sure he regretted it. In an interview, Sepp Blatter was asked the most asked question in football's history. Messi or Ronaldo? Sepp should have just given a straight answer and saved everyone the stress and time. But no, he decided he wanted to entertain the crowd at Ronaldo's expense. He said that Messi was a good guy and for Ronaldo, he did this. 2 days later, Ronaldo faced Dortmund in the Champions League and scored a hat-trick. And look how he celebrated. It took Ronaldo just 2 days to get this sweet revenge, but you see, some revenge are sweeter the longer they wait. Like Balotelli, who waited for 8 years to get his own revenge. In 2013, Balotelli decided to have fun in front of goal. He was one-on-one with the goalkeeper and he decided to score with his back foot instead of just shooting normally like any other player would. And of course, he missed. A commentator, Sergen Yalçın, got so irritated that he publicly called Balotelli brainless. 8 years later in the Turkish league, Sergin was now the coach for Besiktas, and Balotelli was playing for Adana Demirspor. Balotelli scored, and this is how he celebrated. The message was pretty clear. Who's brainless now? My man legit held a grudge from when he was still a really young baller to when he was already a grown man. But some ballers don't have to wait till they are older to get their revenge. Lamine Yamal, for example. France and Spain were set to clash in the Euros semi-final, and all attention was on the wonder kid Yamal. Rabiot didn't get what all the hype was for, and he said that although Yamal handles pressure well, he would have to do much more to get to the finals. He's basically saying Yamal does not have what it takes to beat France. Yamal took this pretty well. In the match against France, he scored a screamer, but first made sure he humiliated Rabiot in a 1v1 before shooting. And after scoring, he ran to the camera and said, "Speak now, speak now." And yes, Spain won that game and got to the final. But sometimes it's not about winning games or scoring goals. Sometimes you just want to see the people who offended you feel serious pain. Just like what happened between Sadio Mane and Ederson. Manchester City versus Liverpool, and something funny happened. Sadio Mane and Otamendi clashed, but it was a normal clash. Both players went for the ball and didn't have any intention of hurting each other. This was pretty obvious to everyone. Well, except Ederson. I don't know what came over this guy, but he decided to confront Mane over that pretty normal clash. And he didn't just confront him, but he kept pushing him. Mane just smiled, but when he went against Ederson, a few minutes later, there was nothing funny about the outcome. That was probably the nastiest tackle you would see today. But anyway, Ederson learned something that day. That tackle was probably nastier than this one on Di Maria. But it wasn't just the tackle. The fans started booing him, but his revenge will be forever golden. He immediately gave Mbappe a beautiful assist from the corner flag. And how he celebrated? My man ran towards the United fans and told them to F off. And something very similar happened to Neymar, but his reply was more classy. Just like Di Maria, Neymar was pushed to the barriers and didn't get an apology for that. Neymar was like, "That's cool, I know how to get." He got back onto the pitch, and with the next pass he received, he destroyed that defender. My man nutmegged him without even looking. Getting megged is definitely one of the worst things that can happen to you in football. But I guess not all defenders learn, because Neymar moved to PSG. And one of the defenders in the new country felt it would be cool to tackle Neymar roughly. Bro kept on kicking Neymar. Just look at this. But once again, Neymar had the perfect reply. And before Neymar left PSG, he pulled on one of the coldest revenge. In 2020, PSG and Bayern clashed in the Champions League final, and Bayern won. Kimmich had an interesting way of celebrating. He screamed right in front of some PSG players. Years later, both teams clashed again in the Champions League, and this time PSG came out on top. Neymar and Paredes had the most petty reply for Kimmich. These guys ran to his front and screamed just like he did years ago. Maybe you're surprised Neymar still remembered to take his revenge years after. Wait till you hear what one of his teammates on the national team did. Vinicius Jr. Real Madrid versus Valencia, but Vinicius didn't end the match on a good note. The fans were being racist towards him, calling him a monkey and all sorts of other horrible things. Vinny reacted to this and got a red card for it. Can you imagine that? Anyway, 1 year after, Real Madrid faced Valencia again, and Vinny did not forget. He scored twice, and see how he celebrated. Who can make noise now? And I guess this guy really takes payback seriously, because against Bayern in the Champions League, he made sure they got a taste of their own medicine. Bayern took the lead and Bayern started wasting time. Well, this is an old and popular trick. We all know how annoying it can be. But the tables turned. Madrid came from behind and took the lead. And Vinny knew just what to do. I know you can't help but laugh. And you'll also laugh when you hear what Maddison told Mopé, because he stole his celebration. Tottenham went head-to-head with Brentford and in the EPL, and the game took a turn no one expected. Mopé scored the first goal of the game, and he decided to tease Maddison by doing the dart celebration, a celebration that we all know belongs to Maddison. Well, Tottenham not only returned with a goal of their own, but also won the match. And yeah, they showed Mopé the right way to do the celebration, and after the match, Maddison said this.
I just said to him he probably hasn't scored enough goals of his own over the last few years to have his own celebration, so he probably had to copy mine.
And finally, this one is kind of like the ultimate revenge in football history, because this time the revenge was against the whole football world. In the summer of 2012, Luka Modric joined Real Madrid from Tottenham. His first season with Real Madrid didn't go well, and he was named the worst signing in Europe. Just think about it, countless transfers, but you're named the worst signing. But Modric didn't let this bring him down. He completed the most iconic villain arc in football. In 2018, that's 6 years after he was named the worst signing in Europe, he won the Ballon d'Or, making him the best footballer in the whole world. Modric really took it out on the whole world. Modric is a genius, man. He's provided some of the craziest assists I've ever seen, like the time he set up a teammate with an insane skill. Not just him, there's a whole bunch of ballers who've popped up with incredible assists over the years. And you can check it out in the next video, the 25 most legendary assists in the history of the game.